Greetings, fine peeps, this is Jamie, and today I've been assigned with doing an op-ed piece for the channel. Normally this role is reserved for Locke, but since I've been brought on board to shore up the broadcasting excellence side of the awake mind, this is a good place to give you a little sample of what we have coming up.
Go on ahead and do it, kid. You got the skills.
Thanks, Locke. So here it is, from all the sources we can tap into, and all the data that can be mined, the conclusion is obvious. The so-called cultures of the now post-Western world have a negative bent to them, and that's being nice about it. Obviously, your usage will vary. For example, the city of Winnipeg in Canada might be more chillaxed than New York City, but the basis of our opinion does not change. We all live in a world where we must work in order to survive. This is such an ingrained truth in our being that its significance in all our actions cannot be overstated. Add on to that the often mentioned, but seldom pondered competition we find ourselves up against at all times. You've been in competition with the invisible other since the day you were born. You've been competing for the same schools, for the same jobs. You were competing for the last seat on the team, and you were in competition for your spouse. Then you started competing for your kids, and as soon as they could comprehend, you begin to teach them to compete too. This is the state of the postmodern Western world, and we know this is not a feel-good message, because it's not meant to be. But stay with us, everything will make sense shortly. But first, we need to throw another complication into the machine, and that's scarcity. Actually, I lied, because there are two complications. Why? Because that's how complications work. They are complicated. Scarcity has a twin sister. You might know her as FOMO. FOMO, or the fear of losing out, is the reason for the cliche, a bird in your hands beats as opposed to birds in the bush. How about the warning about the greener grass across the street being a mirage? And we all know how a fool can rush in too early out of fear, and either make an ass of himself or manifest the very thing he was afraid of. But most times, he ends up both losing and looking like a fool. And the point of these cautionary tales is that your life is too special to be a statistic, and that you need not to live in fear. And we all know this, even on an intuitive level. And still, we find ourselves playing win-lose games with our fellow humans, the same humans who are just like us, or who could actually be us, in just one twist of so-called fate. What's up with that? And why is our alleged modern civilization so hostile at times? Believe it or not, the answer is stupidly simple. We've all been bamboozled into believing that there is not enough of fill in the blank, because it does not matter what it is. It's just not enough. Not enough food. Not enough money. Never mind the fact that we make the money up out of thin air. Yeah, whatever. It's still not enough. And these jackasses got you falling for it left, right, and center. And don't try to pretend this isn't so, because we don't believe you. Your actions are screaming in the midst of denial. Now, maybe you disagree with our assessment here, and you're wondering how we can post content like this and promote ideas like reality bending at the same time. Imagination creates reality, they say. And we agree. Now try to imagine your way out of this mess of a reality. And we don't just mean more money and nicer trimmings. No, that's too easy. We're talking unincorporated private land with a small community living privately, like nobility. This is more than being off the grid. It's making a private grid for you and others to live on. People have and are existing like this right now, but they went private and left the body politic to his own fate. But can you do that? Can you do grand strategy? Or are you just looking for a cooler dream in the Matrix? You see, we think that there is no such thing as a negative thought. And yes, I remembered what I said earlier about the Western world being negative. But there is no such thing as a negative thought. And why is that? Because every thought grows in your mind. Every thought is a positive push into manifest reality. So let's replace that word negative with harmful and ask the question again. Why is the modern world in love with destruction? Our producer doesn't have an answer for that question, but he's pretty damn sure that this is the adversary we're all contending with. So what does that mean? And what can you do about it? For starters, it means,
here's a riddle for you. What is the easiest, and at the same time the most important question that torments snails and sleepy humans alike, even without them realizing that it torments them? There's no point in frowning at me, you won't guess it. The answer is, why aren't things the way I want them to be? That is the question. So what is the answer? It's because you are being led by a script, because you are unaware of the fact, because you don't compose reality yourself, but simply exist within it like a fish in an aquarium, or more precisely like snails. The fact that you are constantly in a vegetative state and only occasionally wake up and realize that you are sleeping proves that you are being led by the script. Why did you think that you forgot about your attention? From absent-mindedness? No, it is because you are being led by the script. You think that you are acting independently, getting your own way, but that's just an illusion. The illusion of action, if I may remind you, lies in being so caught up in reality that you don't notice the illusion and aren't aware that you are the obedient character in a game.
Again, not a pleasant concept, but the truth in that statement is plain and profound. And then some pages later, we're hit with this little gem.
I have good news for you. Do you know what the main idea of the script is once you're beyond 20 years old? It's your own personal degradation. And how does that move you? You can't change the current film role even once you've woken up. When you compose your own reality, you start another film script that works for you. But if you don't work on self-development, there will be degradation instead. You were originally created perfect, and there's a spark of the creator in each and every one of you. To kindle the creator's spark when focus on self-development, you have a choice: either allow the scripts to propel you forward, or take yourself for yourself, so that you can propel yourself and accelerate the implementation of the design.
Before we bring it all together, let's hone in on that term self-development, because most ideas and practices about and around self-development are focused on a career path or some sort of improvement having to do with bettering humanity. But ladies and gentlemen, we at the Awake Mind could care less about that. Self-development is about self, and only self. The fair trade-off is whatever you find or develop is only for you. If you have the most ecstatic experience in the history of man, wonderful. But that doesn't mean you try to convert the planet into your new thing. You don't publicize it like you're campaigning for office. You don't try to force people to do it and become the newism, converting sheeple by the millions. You keep it within. It's your path after all. It was meant for you. And now that we touched on that, let's put some ideas together. Our so-called advanced civilizations, for whatever reasons, have gone the way of dystopia. Perhaps that's always a risk with societies like ours. Perhaps it's all a part of some grand design. Maybe it's the reset, or the Kali Yuga. Who the heck knows? But what we know is that default reality settings are not tilted in our favor. If you want to be fair, you could say the outcomes are random, so your life is all chance. And we won't argue that point with all you quantum theory lovers out there, but you got to admit, that's a hollow, soulless, bitterly cold pill to swallow. Dear Dr. Quantum, the universe doesn't give a rat's hairy behind about you or your Earth. And what's insane is that this is the prevailing mood of the intelligentsia of our scientific culture. But it's only the head of the multi-tentacle beast you're up against. At its core, the problem is one of faith and destruction. Because the world believes in entropy, so everything must become worse. You must die. There is not enough of anything for everyone, so someone must sacrifice. You have to fight and compete for money, love, and respect, while at the same time try to maintain a community with your competition. On the one hand, it's every person for themselves out here, but on the gripping hand, we are all supposed to pull together to keep the democracy going. This is insanity at its finest. The only way a system like the one we have will work, past a century or two, is either A, we are taught from childhood that it's all a game, and life becomes a true sport, or B, the board is reset every so often. Of course, option B comes with a lot of chaos and other baggage. So guess which option we seem to be choosing, like a bunch of drunken football fanatics. Yep, we think you already know which one. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking away on your life, and one day, you will be too old and useless to fight for your job and semi-comfortable consumer lifestyle you've carved out for yourself. Now, if you played the game as you were told, like a good little NPC, you will have bred enough little sheeple kids to take care of your decrepit ass. And then you die, and move on to other realities. and hopefully have a more enjoyable experience. But let me ask you a question. What if your afterlife is just as so-so as this one now? Because when Tufty was speaking about self-degradation, she was not talking about God or Satan pimp smacking you down into the underworld. The script is harsh because this is the makeup of the reality we are in, but the degradation is a choice. It's your choice. And here's our point. There is nothing, and we mean absolutely nothing, more important than your self-development. And your self-development is all about you, not some damn community, not becoming a better person for your daughter or some other soundbite, and not wasting time on the cares of this world, because that's all you're doing with your social justice battles and your political hamster wheel running, and you're fighting for whatever you were told you should fight for. All you are really doing is wasting your incarnation on crap energy. This world is as temporary as a hotel stay in Jamaica. So why are you acting like it's all and everything? Because you're being led by the default script, which leads to your slow degradation. And even when you cross over to the other realities, if your mind has not been renewed, you will gravitate towards a mediocre afterlife. Is that what you want? The day after you die, you have to be at work in the afterlife. Don't laugh, because there are billions upon billions of so-called dead people doing just that right now. Hell is not fire and brimstone. Hell is being stuck doing the same thing over and over again, living the same kind of life again and again, with no expansion. This is the destruction we want to move away from. This is the degradation you want to escape. But first, you must wake up. This video is an effort to start to open your mind to the idea that you just might be living for the wrong things and the wrong people. We also know that these ideas are not for everyone. Many may think that this is an extreme selfishness, and that's okay because we don't care about that. To put it simply, we've learned how to sidestep those people, because the truth of the matter is, those individuals are heading off to experience a path that we have no interest in whatsoever. Question: do you argue with automobiles going in the opposite direction as you on the road? Of course not. So why do it here? This Earth reality is one of billions of trillions of paths you and I can take. The only obligations you really have are the ones you created for yourself. And this reality will not help you out of them, but it also won't tie you down to anything either. This is all choice. Your choice. But first you have to wake the hell up. And then after that, you have to be willing to leave mass reality alone and go off to do your own thing, become your own personal legend. And if you think the waking up part is a trip, leaving mass reality to its own devices is almost a sort of death. At least that's what our producer's friends and lovers told him back in 2009, when our producer had a William Blake-like death in a little town called Ferndale. But you know what? He turned out all right. So much so that now post-pandemic everyone is wanting him to tell them how he managed to thrive even better than before. As one friend said to him last week, I guess you just ignored the recession message everyone got who.
To which Jason replied, yeah, I got that message, but I recycled that ish, along with the gasoline is too high in there. Beer is more expensive than all that, and I refuse to live in fear.
The tactics to reality bending are simple, they just require consistency. And with that consistency, you began to change your world, and all the little stuff like the economy, and all the foolishness around it on the internet, and television becomes entertainment. But first you must wake up. Are you ready for that? Don't decide right now, but stay tuned to this space, because we're taking off the filters and going all the way into the fabric of reality bending. Put it like this, if we can somehow figure out a way to pull a Philip K. Dick or Doctor Who reality jump, our producer will be pulling the trigger most expeditiously. Meanwhile, keep an eye out for the next installment, and I believe Locke has some stuff coming up too. And until next time, self-love is the best love.